The Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Glory to you, O Lord. Now, when Jesus heard about the beheading of John the Baptist, he withdrew from there in a boat to a deserted place by himself. But when the crowds heard it, they followed him on foot from the towns. When he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion on them and cured their sick. When it was evening, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a deserted place, and the hour is now late. Send the crowds away so that they may go into the villages and buy food for themselves." Jesus said to them, "They need not go away. You give them something to eat." The disciples replied, "We have nothing here but 5 loaves and 2 fish." And he said, "Bring them here to me." Then he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples. And the disciples gave them to the crowds. And all ate and were filled. And they took up what was left over of the broken pieces, 12 baskets full. And those who ate were about 5,000 men, besides women and children. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Please be seated. Who have you turned away because you didn't have enough? Whether it was your child begging for attention right when you get home from a long day of work and you just don't quite have it. Your spouse, a friend, a sibling, a parent with a bid for connection that you ignore or don't respond to. That request for just one more donation, squeeze in one more meeting, give a little more of your time for a good cause. We're human. We are fallible and we have limitations. Jesus had just heard his cousin had been beheaded by Herod. I really can't imagine the grief, the fear, the anger he felt in that moment. Recognizing this is how empire receives the good news. Yep, that's true. And Jesus withdraws. He's just been teaching. Remember those parables we've been hearing. And then he receives this word of his cousin's death. And if there ever was a moment to turn away needy people, this was it. Yet when the crowds heard, they followed him by foot from the towns. You can just imagine the people pouring out. And not even in grief does Jesus get a break. Kind of like being the parent of a toddler. And I wonder what they were thinking. I wonder if the people thought maybe Jesus would give up and turn away, because for crying out loud, this is a big deal. This is John the Baptist. He had proclaimed Jesus' coming. He had baptized Jesus. And this had been done to him. That might turn even the most committed person away. Or were they also grieving? Did they need comfort? They knew of John the Baptist. They knew of his connections to Jesus. If you also had been overwhelmed by the ministry of Jesus and following, it would be really frightening to hear that another person who also did so had died in this way. Or maybe they followed him out of their own compassion, kind of like a funeral procession, as we gather and move forward with the grieving. And what does Jesus do? He had compassion on them. The word compassion rendering thoughts of being gut sick or heartbroken, looking out at them and seeing their deep need. So he did what Jesus does. He cured the sick. He let them know, I am still here. I'm not abandoning you. You're safe. And then the disciples notice it's getting really late. These people probably haven't eaten because, it's not just cure the sick. It's cure the sick all day long. And I wonder if Jesus is a little bit like an absent-minded professor in these moments, and the disciples have to just remind him, hey, humans, they need to eat about now. Maybe it was out of care for these people. Maybe it was out of care for Jesus. You might need a break. But Jesus is not ready to send them away. And the people are not ready to go. So he instructs the disciples to get them something to eat. And it's easy to judge the reaction, friends. And I know we've probably done it and heard sermons that did it and all the things, right? But it's a ridiculous request. They didn't come prepared to serve a banquet to probably 20-ish thousand people. I mean, if it was 5,000 men and women and children, and each man has, guess how many number in his family, that's a lot of people. Can only imagine what Lori would say if I said right now, feed everyone, fellowship committee. We have nothing but 5 loaves and 2 fish, Jesus. And Jesus doesn't say, you should somehow get more. He says, bring them to me. Bring me what little you have. Blesses them, breaks the bread, and all ate and were filled, and there were 12 basketfuls left over. A miracle. Make no mistake, the disciples weren't wrong. And you're not wrong. Your energy, your time is limited. Jesus was 100% human and 100% God. Don't ask your math teacher about that. They'll tell you it's not possible, but this is God stuff. This is beyond our understanding. And with God, all things are possible. And we're human, we're fallible, we're limited, and like the crowds, we too follow Jesus, perhaps even chase him down, hungry, in need of peace, in need of satisfaction, in need of healing, in need of grace and forgiveness. And we come here to this table each week and receive tangible signs of that grace, of that forgiveness, and hear those same words that Jesus blessed and broke the bread. Christ's very body broken, poured out for you just as he did this day for the crowds who followed him. Poured out for you so that sustained by this gift, you also, like the crowds who followed Jesus in this moment, may be overcome by the blessing. May be sustained, may be renewed, may be fulfilled, healed, and forgiven. All by God's great generosity that we know on account of the life of Jesus. And then, having received this generosity, having been renewed, You are then compelled outward into the world with your own generosity, out of not your abundance, but God's abundance. Out to extend compassion over and over again, to gather at tables, to break bread, to share life. And in those places, find healing and share compassion. And as the meager basket of 5 fishes and 2 loaves is passed, it multiplies until all have enough. Actually, more than enough. 12 basketfuls left over. And was it a miracle? Was it that as baskets were passed, all shared what they had? And is there a difference? Just as Jesus' death and resurrection cures the scarcity of our sin, God's abundance was made known in the midst of scarcity. And we who follow, we who chase Jesus down, we are called to share that same abundance of God's blessing. To gather, to bake bread, even when we fear there isn't enough, trusting God has given more than enough, so that we may share the compassion we have first received, that all may hear the good news made known in Jesus. You are forgiven. The power of evil will not prevail, and there is enough. Enough to share with all of creation.